I'm Chris Williams from Cyclone Fanatic and a proud Iowa State graduate from the class of 2007. No one shows up like Iowa State fans.
And Cyclones support Cyclones on and off the field.
Your gift can provide scholarships to students, fund groundbreaking research. We could even drum up opportunities for the marching-band. Visit MoveWhatMatters.com to learn how you can make an impact today.
Nigel, we are live on Let Him Cook. Didn't forget the intro this time. Coming at you a little late, just some scheduling conflicts, but we got 2 games to go over. Obviously, a huge game with Houston to preview. Man, it is cold, so damn cold. It's still cold. Nigel, I'm sick of it. Is it cold in Chicago? Would this make me feel better?
Is the sky blue? Yes, it's cold.
Okay. All right.
It's bad. And then it doesn't help too. I mean, you're working the night shift right now, so it's a little easier to sleep in. And when it's cold, it is easier to sleep in just normally. But for me, waking up at 5:30, man, it's bad. Like my body hurts and it's not good. Like I got to go outside. I hate sleeping in the winter because I run very hot. So I tend to like sleep in a t-shirt and shorts, just to stay cool for the night. Right. And I'll like to go start my car early and then sort of have to jog out there in like Ugg slippers and then just shorts in a white tee. It's 9 degrees. It's brutal. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. It's the worst wake up call in the world. So yes, to answer your question, it is cold in Chicago.
This Monday, it feels like we've had more fires in central Iowa this week than any time I've been working at KCCI. And I had to park pretty far away. It was a fire out in rural Iowa, and they were using the highway as kind of a shuttle for fire trucks, so I couldn't park on the highway. I'm walking uphill straight into the wind. Wind's like 30 miles an hour. My hair, for the audio listeners, I'm trying to shield my face, and I get to the top, I get in my car, look in the rearview mirror, and I have like icicles in my hair, and I'm like, it's not raining. Like, what is that? What could that even be that is frozen in my hair? I'm almost solid. My nose was just running, and this is gross, and it was just freezing to my hair, and I was like, dog, that's a different level of cold. And like, I couldn't feel my hands. I couldn't feel my feet. It was, I was happy to get back in a heated car after that trip up the hill.
Dylan's shooting ropes out of his nose, ropes of boogers.
And they're freezing in my hair.
No, I know the struggle though, because when I did have long hair, I would obviously take showers and have like a little bit of product in it. And as soon as I stepped outside in Iowa, man, it felt like ramen noodles. It got real crunchy, and it didn't get uncrunchy until I got back into a heated classroom usually. But that's crazy. You went on like a SpongeBob Krusty Krab pizza walk uphill. That's funny.
Sure did. Uphill both ways. We got a couple games to talk about, both home games. And it felt like this is probably the easiest stretch going into Houston. Iowa State has won their last 4 games after losing the 3 games. That kind of shook some confidence. I think it kind of took Iowa State out of the national spotlight, has kind of catapulted Houston into the Big 12 talking point in like national halftime shows. But 2 really big wins. I think 2 confidence boosters going into Houston. Let's start with Cincinnati. I was at this game as a fan, way up in section 234, best seats in the house. What I could tell from way up there is Day Thomas and Jizzle James can dance. Those boys, they have every dribbling move 2K can offer. We have some great defensive guards, like top 10, top 15 in the country with Taman Lipsy and Keyshawn. And Taman was having a hard time keeping up. Heisey's a great defender. He was having a hard time keeping up with those guys. I was really impressed by the Cincinnati guards, and they're just fun to watch.
Yeah, Yeah, no, they got some trench babies over there, and not just by their names, but also by their games. But yeah, no, they Cincinnati gave a pretty tough fight. I also didn't know going into the game that Dylan Mitchell, former Texas Longhorn, was on this squad as well. That's tough to transfer, thinking, oh, thank God I'm not going to play Iowa State, and then here you are at Cincinnati playing Iowa State. Had you stayed in Texas, you wouldn't have had to been through the tough loss. But yeah, no. Other than that, one of the most underrated backcourts probably in the conference, outside of, I would say, West Virginia. But definitely glad we didn't fall into the West Virginia trap and obviously lose another very winnable game at home. Because I know you said it like easy next 2 games. I would say rather boring, because as much as like these games weren't necessarily blowouts, at times I don't know if it was because of turnovers or just lack of high profile competition, just was a little harder to watch. It just didn't live up to put it this way, it wasn't Auburn versus Alabama, if you will. So definitely these are the hardest games. I feel like it's harder to prepare for them because there isn't that level of excitement too. So definitely just excited that we were able to obviously get through this easy patch before we have to go into the house of the Cougars, which is not going to be an easy 40 minutes.
Jizzle James had 25 points, I think 17 or 18 points in the first half, played really well towards the end of the second half. I remember talking to my buddies and saying, hey, if we're up 7 at halftime, I'd be happy with it. I think we might have been tied. Let me see if I can find. I might not be able to find it. Yeah, it was 39-39 at halftime. So, it wasn't – at no point did I think we might lose this game. But Cincinnati really hung around, and then it kind of, maybe like 5 minutes left in the second half, Wes Miller just got a bad technical foul, and I think these officials, kind of in both games, got a little whistle happy. I think like Cincinnati's game plan was obviously come in, don't let them out physical you, don't be intimidated, bring the fight to them. I think that's kind of what every coach has to tell their players before they play Iowa State, because if you let your players get shaken by Keyshawn and Taman on you like peanut butter and jelly, you're going to lose that game in the first 5 minutes. And these games just get really physical. And sometimes I think the officials kind of overcorrect. There are some really good calls in the first half. That Keyshawn technical, I don't know what was said. Definitely didn't hear it about 500 seats away from the floor. But Cincinnati was mugging Keyshawn. They were just like, you could call the foul 3 different times on that possession, and it looks like Keyshawn said, do your job. I don't know if there was an expletive involved, and it might have been a do your bleeping job. I don't know. It was a very quick technical. There was no warning before Keyshawn did that. There was no other time in the game where the ref went up to Keyshawn and said, hey, check yourself. Just a very quick technical. The crowd just pounced on the ref. I don't know if you saw the video. TJ had a long talk with the official. I'm blanking on his name right now. Tony Padilla, I think. And before halftime, and I don't know what was said. I think TJ was frustrated with how the game was being called. But then in the second half, in the first 7 minutes, it felt like 15 fouls had been called. And you're like, okay, let the guys play. I understand it's physical. You don't have to dictate the flow of a game, though. It'll figure itself out. These dudes are tough. You don't have to tell Jizzle James about toughness. He was throwing Edrin James stiff arms half the game. That guy, he's going to be fine. They're going to shake some of these bruises off. That was my one I was just like, man, the reffing has just been a little inconsistent at times. And I don't think it has favored one team or the other that much. But they'll go 10 minutes where they let anything happen, and then 10 minutes where it's just whistle after whistle. And I know that's true everywhere, but it just felt more apparent in the last 2 games than, I don't know, throughout the season.
Yeah, no, in my head, it's definitely typical Big 12 ref behavior, just inconsistencies. And then also, too, it's like overdoing your job or not doing enough of your job. And it's never like, let's find a happy medium. It's always like, let's try to, turn this room up, or let's try to, not do anything at all. Let's just swallow our whistles. It infuriates me sometimes. I don't know if it's more of an age gap, with refs. A lot of them do fall in that older demographic. I wish I could see just a nice 37-year-old out there calling a crew of a 38, 42, and 39-year-old just calling a game. It's always some guy with like the American dream buzz. Like I served 5 years in the Army haircut, and I'm just tired of that font because it just seems like they're a little slow on the replay cameras. They're a little slow on every call that needs to form up. Like I feel like there's a lot of waiting around for them to make a decision when the game is really in their hands, and then when it's not necessary for it to be in their hands, they overdo it with either doing too much or not doing enough. So it's definitely something they need to get better at. But also too, I think it's like just an age thing. Like I love my grandpa to death, but am I going to ask him to go ref an Iowa State basketball game? God, no, because he's just not the sharpest guy anymore when it comes to, being quick on your feet and making quick decisions and dictating a fast-paced sport. I wouldn't trust him to do that, and that's okay, So I don't know if we need a cutoff for a Big 12 refs, but we might need to look into it going forward.
This is a little bit off topic, but it's been a pretty popular subject around college basketball, talking heads or what have you. They still slot college basketball times on television as 2 hours, but with how much reviews, how many free throws, the end of games being drawn out because you can go review plays, a lot of them are going 2.5 easy. Regulation, no overtime. Like, at some point, I don't know. I was literally talking tonight. I was like, I would almost rather ban reviews, and because I feel like refs do a pretty good job of makeup calls. And especially in college basketball, I feel like someone in the crew can be like, hey, we messed that one up. We'll give the other team, and they really even themselves out. And I don't know. I just the end of college basketball games can be a crawl right now. Yeah. And they just take so long to finish. And also another thing, Iowa State was really rocket against Cincinnati in the second half. And then Cincinnati calls a timeout. Iowa State's on its feet going into the media timeout. We have to wait 2.5 minutes for them to come back to commercial. And then the pep band starts playing. And then, we come back and everybody's sitting down. And that's not really a fault on officiating. But at the end of games, Iowa State, thankfully, it wasn't much of a game in the last 2 minutes. But if it was, it's really hard for an in-person crowd to stay intense and keep that Hilton environment when the game gets review after review after review.
Well, I remember too, when we played Arizona and Caleb Love blatantly stepped out of bounds, and I don't even think that was even deserving of a replay. They just sit on a play that crucial in the game. They just sit there for 90 seconds tops, just watching it from every angle. Does it matter? Just we see it from one angle. That's all. That's the only angle it should take. It should only take 1 to 2 watches max. And that's what I'm saying. Is this an age problem? Are these guys having vision issues or cognitive issues to where they can't make quick decisions anymore? And then if that's the case, we might just need a younger crew. Who's coaching the high school level in Iowa? Let's call them up. They might want to run one of these games. I think they would jump at the opportunity,
I think too, but some officials have they use review as a crutch. If a ref doesn't know the call in the moment, they just say, it's their ball. Let's go review it. I mean, it's such I don't know what happened. I'm going to say this happened, and then we're going to go look at a monitor for 2.5 minutes and actually figure it out. So it's I think sometimes
why are we spacing out during the game?
Are we taking breaks? Are we if I get it wrong,
I think we need a sharper mind. We need a sharper mind out there. And I'm not saying old people are dumb. It's just as you get older, it's going to happen to all of us. We're just going to lose a step or two, and that's okay. You're trying to gauge what's going on between in shape 18 to 25-year-olds. That's not the easiest job in the world. So that's what I'm saying. I feel age plays a huge part into decision making and why things are so inconsistent, because it just seems like the same 7 or 8 guys just cycling out the conference, calling the same games. And it's dude, we get it. Everyone's buddy with these guys. You develop relationships and whatnot with coaches and whatnot, but that shouldn't matter. They should the ref should be such a second, third, fourth thought in a game that it shouldn't matter who's calling the game. Just call the game. Do your job. Like it bothers me that they've made referees like this intricate part. Like there should be no, and this is an example on the NBA level. There should be no reason that NBA fans know Scott Foster's name by like they know him by name. No one should know any referee by name. And when you're making yourself known that much, I'm questioning you're the problem in any situation.
It's kind of like an NFL kicker. Like, you know the really good ones, but I remember Blair Walsh, and it's not for good reasons.
Yeah, I know Tim Donaghy, but I know it's not because he's going to church every Sunday.
Yeah.
He's hanging out with Tony Soprano and the boys. So don't get it twisted. Everything is not what it seems. Also, let's not act. I'm also not going to throw away the thought of, I'm not saying referees are out to get Iowa State, but I could definitely see how financially this would benefit somebody if they set a bet on, let's keep Cincinnati close in the game. You know, they're expected to lose. You know, Iowa State's at home. I get it, but let's just keep the game close and let's put a nice little profit on and see what we can make. You know,
Vegas.
I have all the dictation of this game. I can control it. Like, you can't tell me referees are not telling their wives at home to make a DraftKings account and bet on some games. You'd be an idiot not to believe that.
If anyone will investigate it, it's the great state of Iowa. Shout out.
We have had some history in the past with gambling. So.
They're not scared to investigate gambling. I'll say that much. Iowa State, Cincinnati, a good win. Like I said, Cincinnati got in a lot of foul trouble. They had 2 guys foul out. 2 guys with 4 fouls, 2 more guys with 3 fouls. I mean, it was ugly. Iowa State was shooting free throws early in that second half, pulled away. Again, Wes Miller with a dumb technical foul. I think it led to 5-point possession for Iowa State. So, and that was kind of the end of the game. That was kind of the dagger. It came with about 6 minutes left, and then Iowa State held Cincinnati at arm's length. Last night, Iowa State, Colorado, pretty early on in this game, and we've played Colorado 3 times. Also, shout out, 1/7 of our wins have been against Colorado this year. We have 21 wins, 3 of them against Colorado.
I don't even want to call it a sweep. I think this is a 3-peat.
Yeah,
like this is just right up there with the Lakers and Bulls.
Colorado would have to win some games in Kansas City, but it's not out of the question that we see them 4 times in one season, which seems elite.
That it almost seems like you can't schedule multi-team tournaments like so many years in advance.
Yeah. Well, I think they did. I think this is the last year where that kind of weird interconference, non-conference tournament stuff can happen. I think they've fixed it already next year. But
do you think that's because they're not going to move? People aren't going to move conferences anymore. Like everything is going to be just like how it is now, or because I feel like NIU's moving to the Mountain West. Yeah. So like people are still moving. It's just going to be a matter of like, are the big teams moving? Like, is this
I mean, it's totally up to football, which is so stupid, and I could rant about that for another 20 minutes. But it really does depend on football and the Big Ten and the SEC, which is so stupid because the Big Ten sucks at basketball. The Big 12 has been the first or second best basketball conference the last 4 years, and dumb. It's dumb.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah, but it could. Yeah, and I hope it doesn't. I think like conference realignment is already well out of hand. That's the other thing about like UCF, Oklahoma State is a conference game. You're just like, what? Yeah. Iowa State, Cincinnati. Cincinnati's not a super crazy one, but you see like Utah and like Arizona State and UCF, and you're just like,
yeah,
I don't know.
It's brutal if like someone has a turnaround of like, at least in the Big 12 conference, to have to go to like UCF, and just within like 5 days you're in Utah. Where the hell am I?
Yeah.
Like those, I just feel for all players, because I know they're not getting like proper sleep. There's no way. You're being tossed 3 hours back, 3 hours forward. Like it's a whole lot. I couldn't imagine. I have trouble sleeping in Central Time, let alone 3 time zones.
Iowa State last night. Again, I don't want to say a team ever goes into cruise control, but I think it is clear to most people Iowa State's a lot better at basketball than Colorado is this year. And like, keep in mind, Colorado, they lost 3 players to the NBA. Javon Hadley is hooping right now for Louisville. Eddie Lampkin transferred to Syracuse. They lost another big piece. So Ted Boyle has done.
Cody Williams, lottery pick.
Yeah. De Silva, and then who was their
De Silva
third?
too. You're right.
And they had a third player go in the second round.
Oh, is it their guard?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. They were talking about it in the broadcast last night.
Yeah. No, their last year's team was really good. I liked that group. But
Colorado has a history of having some good teams, but just not this year. Colorado got their first Big 12 win on Saturday against UCF. UCF has just fallen off a cliff. They gave Houston, the fight of their lives. UCF, I just found this out today. They beat Texas A&M in their first game this season. Texas A&M's like a projected 2 or 3 seed. So just a weird year for UCF. Colorado beat UConn. How bad would Dane Hurley be in the Big 12? The people are asking.
I think the people know because they're a bubble team now. What?
Yeah.
They're like the Phoenix Suns in the 2020 bubble right now.
The one thing that you could point in the last 2 games, I think Iowa State against Cincinnati had 18 turnovers. Last night against Colorado, and the turnovers against Colorado are kind of deceiving because I would say like 4 of them happened in the last 5 minutes when the game was out of hand. They had 14 turnovers last night against Colorado. I've had a lot of conversation with friends, Cyclone fans. Does Iowa State have a turnover problem? I just want to get this spiel and then I'll hear what you have to say, Nigel.
Yeah.
I think Iowa State has a transition offense problem. I think a lot of times we get a live ball turnover and the transition offense isn't ideal. And either we don't have numbers and we try to force it because, attack, be aggressive. And I don't think that's the fault on the players. I think the coaching staff tells all their players, if you get a live ball turnover, go straight to the rim. And points off a turnover is a driving force for our offense. But it can be sloppy at times. It can be ugly basketball. You force a pass that's not there. You travel. You anticipate a guy looking back for a pass and he's not there. That happened to Keyshawn last night where Momcilovic was looking back for the ball and then he turns his head at the last second and you're kind of in no man's land. Weird things can happen in transition offense. It's literally you're in flux. The offense is in flux. I don't think, and you can point to Kansas State and Arizona. Both of those games are so weird and very different reasons that I wouldn't say turnovers is the sole reason why we lost those 2 games. And we have turned the ball over quite a bit in the last 4 games. UCF is a bit of an exception, and we've won the last 4 games. So I don't think it's as simple as when Iowa State turns the ball over too much, we lose games. That hasn't been true. And Keyshawn and Taman have more turnovers than anyone else on the team. But naturally, especially as an NBA fan, Nigel, if you have the ball in your hand, you're going to turn the ball over. Trae Young is an incredible guard, all-star guard, putting up 25 and 12 every night. He averages 5 turnovers a game. But nobody's saying Trae Young sucks because he turns it over 5 times a game. He's got the ball in his hand the whole game. You're going to turn the ball over. So I wouldn't go as far to say Keyshawn and Taman are being reckless and they're keeping games in question by turning the ball over too much.
Yeah, I don't know their usage percentage individually, but that, like you said, that definitely plays into your turnover to assist ratio. Because for some point guards, obviously, it's going to be higher if they're doing a lot more of the ball handling. But let's say, for example, with Iowa State specifically, they're a lot bigger of a starting lineup this year. Milan was their 4 last year, who's now their 3. So to tell someone who is usually coming from high school with playing the 4 and 5 to now, hey, run the wing with fluidity like you're Peja Stojakovic, please, and thanks. When you've been really playing a stretch big, as in you're Dirk Nowitzki and you're trailing most offenses, or you're going to a block to create a shot, you're now telling Milan to run on the smallest slither of the court possible, get your feet set, and get your already unorthodox shot up and ready to make a play. And usually, let's not also act like Milan is, Ja Morant. He's not the fastest guy on the floor at all times. And transition offense is not always the easiest, because what I've seen a lot too is a lot of the times where Keyshawn or Taman gets it in transition, or even Curtis too. They'll get it in transition, and like you said, they're kind of in no man's land, just not having options. It's like, well, it's either I have to cook or no one's eating right now, and you have to wait for everyone, and then you like Jefferson and Jackson are also not going to be able to get back in a blink of an eye. It's going to take a minute for them to get up as well. So I think too, it's just like we're a bigger team this year, so our speed overall has decreased. So when you have two very fast guards in your backcourt like Keyshawn and Taman, it's just a little harder to play with numbers. It's kind of like you do have to kind of create by yourself, kind of like how back in Maui when Keyshawn was doing a great job at being a one-man show in transition and just getting to the rim. Like, that's our bread and butter, and that opens up other shots for other people. So I think it's in my opinion, it's a little late in the year to not be self-aware about this. And as Taman and Keyshawn, push the ball in transition, not be shocked when you don't have numbers, because you don't have the slowest 3 through 5 option out there with you. And then you throw in Chatfield. I mean, we're just getting slower and slower by the minute. So I think this is not a knock on our wings or our bigs, but just because obviously we're a taller and larger team this year, speed has just not been our best attribute at the end of the day, which is a good aspect to have if you want to have a good transition defense. Transition offense.
And like you said, with Momcilovic especially, and even Curtis, I think both those guys are better as trailers, because a lot of the times when we get a 3-on transition, Keyshawn and Taman kind of attract a double team and then kind of shield their body to the defenders, and then either Kurt or Milan is wide open on the 3-point line, and they look more comfortable shooting that shot as trailers than they do, like you said, like a Stojakovic just sprinting to the corner, getting his feet set and shooting a 3.
Yeah,
like it is, definitely a change of pace. I just think we're good at what we're good at, and I just, do you think we can see that Keyshawn that we saw in Maui again? Because he's still good in transition. He was excellent in probably the best around the rim guard to start the year in the country, and it just seems like he's lost a little bit of that. Do you think we can still see it before the end of the year?
I think so, but it's also like I think he's lost it too, because initially when watching us like on tape, that's probably a coach's first plan of attack. Is this is how they get a lot of easy points, at least early on in the season. They're stopping tape. This is how they're getting a lot of easy points. So what do? Who's the most important person on the court right now? The person leading the pack with the ball. So let's cut the head off the snake. And I think that's what a lot of teams have been emphasizing, is getting him off of his rhythm earlier so he can't build up that head of steam and get to the rim as easily. Yeah. But I definitely think obviously it's going to be, I never want to count obviously something he's already so good at, which is getting to the rim. Like, he can't do it anymore. It's just going to be a matter of, are other people going to be doing something that is a little more distracting to where a team can't just focus on in transition cutting off the head of the snake, which is Keyshawn or Taman most of the time. So I think I don't want to say, hey, Milan, you're not you're not as good at running the wing as we would like you to be. Get better at it. But if that does improve, definitely opens up options for drivers. And also too, I think I look back to the Kansas game we played at Hilton. Like, Curtis did a great job running the wing. It's just now people are anticipating when he is on the wing, be out there. So there's scenarios, and it's almost like know your personnel of like who's specifically out there on those wings to know if you have options in transition. And I think with this alone, this scenario with Milan and just a bigger lineup out there, you have to know that people are going to try to cut you off first. So as trailers, i.e. Jefferson, Milan, you guys got to be ready to shoot fast and early, because usually there's probably going to be, if not one person, maybe two people on Keyshawn just to stop the ball. And then they got to scramble and relocate. So that's the time to be aggressive and obviously get a shot up or put the ball on the floor.
Also, just because of how obviously I think Milan coming back is a big boon for, I think that has a lot to do with our 4-game winning streak. But like these last two games, again, Nate Heise, Chatfield have really stepped up. Heise just had his season high or tied his season high in points against Colorado, had 11 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, really good production off the bench. Chatfield had, I think, 6 points against Colorado. Everything just feels a lot more comfortable. Like the guys just look more comfortable, more at ease. I don't think anybody's trying to do too much. That's the other thing about the turnovers. It's not the defense. Well, sometimes it is, but a lot of the times it's not the defense that is forcing us into making bad decisions. It's weird, kind of like goofy stuff, just stuff that happens in a basketball game that doesn't make you a bad basketball team, but just I don't know, just like I said, a miscommunication between two players. Somebody thought they were going to curl off the screen instead of drag, just dumb shit like that, where it's not we're being outplayed. It's just like that'll happen in a game, and it doesn't mean we're lazy on offense. It doesn't mean we have a problem. It just means, and again, we are a top 20 team in turnover margin. TJ has built his empire on forcing turnovers, and we don't turn the ball over a bunch. We're top 50 in not turning the ball over, and we're top 10 in forcing turnovers. So, grand scheme of things, we're fine. I understand it's gotten worse as the season's gone along, which is not what you want to see typically. But I don't think it's this Achilles heel that we can't make a Final Four because we're turning the ball over 14 times a game.
Yeah, I think enough teams in the country have shown they're beatable to where our play style on any given night can throw off a good team. So I'm not really necessarily worried about us turning the ball over. Obviously, you want to minimize that come tournament time because every possession matters, obviously. But still, I just feel like every team this year has shown us a flaw. Some have shown us more than others. But even the top of the cream of the crop, Auburn and Duke, have dropped a few recently. So definitely not saying it's going to be a lost cause because we turned the ball over. But to say we have a long-term turnover problem, I don't know if you want to go that far and say that. I just think obviously you want to clean some stuff up on the offensive end. And obviously too, it's about having that kind of good mental balance of we're going to give it our all on offense, but let's also not lose our head on, we're going to give our all on defense. And I know that takes a lot out of you mentally and physically, but we're also not going to just go brain dead come our offensive possession that you work so hard for. So it's definitely just finding that balance. And two, if there's any group that has the poise and the personnel to do so, I do believe it's this group here. So I'm definitely not worried about it long term.
Let's talk a little bit about Houston. College game day come to town. Go ahead.
Definitely did want to give a shout out to not only Jake Brenn for posting this, but I think too, I thought it was very fitting how we talked about the energy not being the highest for. It's a little harder to get up for a Kansas, Colorado back-to-back. I get it. Not Kansas, Cincinnati, Colorado back-to-back. But before that, also, it probably would have flowed better had we brought this up earlier before we dive into the games. But TJ's 8-minute speech on the team this year, it made me want to drive my car into the nearest car next to me. I was ready to hit something. I wanted to suit up. It was beautiful. Definitely. Where do you think that came from? That was such out of a spur of the moment. He seemed like he had been planning that. It was I got something to say. Hold up, before anybody asks me any questions, I want to say this real quick. And he said real quick, and bros talked nonstop for 8 minutes about how much he just loves this team. And we kind of talked about how important it is to have a coach that embodies what your school represents. And it's just, I guess, what do you think was in his head to want to say that at that moment before these two games? I guess, what was your take on that?
So I think to keep in mind, they were just coming off of that 3-game losing streak. They turn around, they beat TCU by 30 for College game day. They go on the road, got out a win at UCF. And another thing to keep in mind, those press conferences, I think they're usually on Mondays,
Tuesday or something, Tuesday morning.
maybe Wednesday morning. Maybe it's usually after their Tuesday game. It's like kind of a midweek. It's not on a game day.
It's like a practice.
Yeah, it's a laid back kind of thing. And they usually last 8 minutes total, like with reporters asking questions, because TJ never starts with like an off the top, like spiel like that. Like he never goes on a speech to start those things. It's just like first question and someone asks. Like, I don't know. I don't know if like on that plane ride home from UCF, he was just like, I don't think TJ was ever worried during that 3-game losing streak. As a fan, I was never that worried. It was like, let's get Momcilovic back. Let's take care of business against these 4 teams and go to Houston. But you still have to do it. And like, you still have to win those 4 games that you should win. And I think he saw the way the team kind of reacted to that 3-game losing streak. I think those guys took it on the chin. They didn't hang their head. They didn't start pointing the finger. They didn't start making excuses. It was, let's get back to business. And like you said, TJ just like went down the roster and was like, I love this guy. I love this guy. I love this guy. This guy's a dog.
And another thing I love about Caden Fish. And I was like, Caden Fish? What? Like, bro, he was talking about the damn managers. Like, I was like, dude, like, he low-key went crazy.
Yeah, and like that, another thing, and I don't think this had anything to do with it, but it does make me feel better as a fan when TJ gets brought up in the North Carolina head coaching talks, in the Indiana head coaching talks. Like, for him to go on this, like, 10-minute speech of just, like, I love it here, I love our players, I love our fans, and it is cool to see, like, the state of Iowa just has a lot of snowbirds in Florida, in Arizona, so we had a pretty good road crowd, especially at Arizona State and UCF, and it's just cool because, like, a lot of those people are retirement age, but it's like, hey, the Cyclones are coming to, like, an hour away, let's get in the car, and you hear like Cyclone power chants thousands of miles away from Ames. And I think like just a combination of the way the team responded, the fan support, and like I think TJ just truly loving Iowa State. But God, it was, if you haven't listened to it, I know Cyclone Fanatic has it on their YouTube. Definitely worth a listen. Especially like no matter what happens on against Houston, I encourage every Iowa State fan to just listen to that before and after the Houston game. Either to like just build up on the excitement or to just kind of level yourself of, hey, this team still rocks.
Yeah. And I don't know if that was more so of a move on, I'm trying to re-put confidence into my guys. Cause it sounded like they already had it. Like you said, like they were okay. Or if that was more so just for like the fans. Cause I don't know if they kind of took a temperature of like, despite us beating UCF, like, people still probably are not feeling very high on us right now when they should be. We are having one of the better years in program history. And I think, people lose sight of that when an ugly 3-game skid like that comes around. So I was just curious on to what did you think that was the main premise of that and where that came out of? Cause like when you say I got something to say and you go on to talk about something for 8 minutes, unless you're Kanye West, like, this seems premeditated. I definitely was just taken back on like I felt kind of happy to like reinstate that statement of like, man, he really cares about this school. He really cares about this program. He cares about our guys. And if you think he's going to leave right now in this moment or after this moment for 2 blue bloods that are in hell right now, you can go to hell. Because that's just not happening. So it definitely made me reassured that he's definitely in the Campbell conversation of like, he's gonna be in top job talks every year in and year out, and maybe even some pro talks down the line. But I don't think like Campbell. I think he's gonna be very unfazed by all of it. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to Houston. Nigel, we were talking about
this. Man has been, I just want people to know he is so thirsty to talk about this mid-Houston team, but please continue.
So here's the thing. The style of basketball that I love is defense-oriented, get rebounds, turn the other team over, and that is like the only thing Houston has done the last, 7 years. And like have done it at a level that I've never seen in college basketball. And that doesn't make them the best. I mean, like I'm not saying they've been the best overall team in the last 7 years, But if I could build a team, it would look like Houston. And like, thank God for TJ basically doing that for like Iowa State team that I love. But yeah, I mean, yeah, if like Houston just plays basketball the way I love basketball to be played.
You just like trench baby basketball. Like you like you want all your players to be from Harlem, New York, and they play in Allen Iverson baggy clothes in Rucker Park for their entire lives.
If I could get 5 Mark Vitals to play 5 Mark Vitals, that would be my favorite basketball game of all time.
That would be a wrestling match. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it would, and it would be awesome. And I would love every second of it. The final score would be 10-8, and I would be locked in for 40 minutes.
Dylan, I saw Mark Vidal in person. I don't think you understand how scary that man is. They were playing us in our 2022 season, and Tyler Harris brought the ball. Mind you, Tyler Harris is a great player, but he's 5'9", not the most physically intimidating person. Mark Vidal brushes off Davion Mitchell, like gets in the most like LeBron All-Star game athletic stance, and then while he's playing defense, usually people play defense with their hands out, you can't see it, but he was playing defense in a defensive stance with his hands like this but outward, and he was just like staring into Tyler Harris's soul, and I was like, he makes me never want to touch a basketball again. I was terrified, and I had a towel in my hand. I was doing nothing. I had no impact on the game, and I was terrified. So I don't think you want 5 Mark Vitals versus 5 Mark Vitals. That's like saying you want OJ Simpson to play basketball. There's going to be murder. Okay, it's not going to be okay.
The game last year at Houston was basically a war. Like, I just remember every possession of that game feeling so like 2 points in that game felt like 10. Like, if you could get a good look against Houston last year, it was like, please God, go in, because we're not going to get another good look for 4 minutes. And like, I expect nothing less going to Houston on Saturday. This is calling Houston mid. I know it's kind of a hyperbole coming from you. Houston's not mid. I was just looking at this on my book. Yeah, Iowa State is like elite in terms of scoring margin, rebound margin, and turnover margin. They're top 40 in all 3 of those things. The only team that is better in all 3 categories in the whole country is Houston. Houston's better at rebounding, better at turning the other team over, and better at scoring more points than their opponent. There's no other team that's even better at rebounding and turnovers than Iowa State. Well, Houston, but like besides that, there's nobody else.
It's like by a rebound, though. Like, are you talking about rebounds per game for teams?
Rebound margin. So how much you out-rebound the other team by on average per game. So Houston is averaging...
Right now, I got 36.7. Houston's at 37.1. That's not a huge margin.
But like, if you compare that to how many rebounds Houston is giving up, like how many rebounds the opponent is getting against Houston, Houston's doing a lot better job at that. So it usually means that team is a better offensive rebounding team. Like, I think Iowa State and Houston are both really good defensive rebounding teams, but like Houston and A&M are like offensive rebounding are like on a different stratosphere. Like, it's nuts. I would guess Houston gets 10 to 20% of their points off of second chance points.
They just
they're a top 10. They're a top 10 3-point shooting team, and that's almost what has me more worried. Because we can go to war, we can punch guys, we can get technicals, we can dive after loose balls, but if they shoot 40% from 3, dog, I don't know. And that's really any team playing Houston. It's like, you can get in the mud and you can fight, but if Sharp and Uzan and those guys are hitting threes, not much you can do.
No, and I understand where you're coming from. And I honestly, too, like, I look back at last year alone, and I feel like we going, like, while the game at Houston last year was a great game, feel like because we already had beaten them at home, kind of felt like we had some cushion. I think because this is the only time we're going to meet them in the regular season this year, there is no other time. There is no next time. In the great words of Apollo Creed from Rocky III, there is no tomorrow.
Yeah, sure.
And as much as like we can bring up numbers and analytics all day, like we can talk nerd all day, but
which I love doing.
But at some point, I have to pull my shorts up and ask myself, is he nice with it? And I just don't know. Like I think, and this says a lot about Houston and what they've been able to do over the last few years, especially like not even just Jamal Shead and his teams, but also too like even the teams that Quentin Grimes was on, like that made the Final Four a few years ago. Like teams like that, I'm not knocking them for what they've been this entire decade as a basketball program, but I just don't think it, like we beat a better team in my opinion last year. And as much as they could be playing better for all I care, we've beaten LJ Cryer in a Houston Cougar uniform and a Baylor Bear uniform. Like there's just from a man-to-man, mano standpoint, there's no one here that is a Mark Vital. There's no one here that scares me, okay? So I just don't think that it's going to be more so of like us just laying down and us feeling like, oh, it's okay, we got some cushion. Let's not throw all of our energy into this. I think this, outside of Arizona, this is the last like championship-esque game you have until the tournament. So why they won't lay it out on the ground would be beyond me. Because I just don't think with a 3-game skid to teams you have no business losing to, I think you have no choice but to turn this rock fight into a cylinder block fight. Like we need to get violent, dirty, fast. It needs to be bad and bloody because this is a must-win, in my opinion. This is a must-win. I think they know that. And if you walk into this game with the scenario, with the mindset and the scenario of there is no tomorrow, I think the Iowa State Cyclones will be just fine beating a team like this.
And we've talked about this where it's like Iowa State has to not leave it up to anybody because we're not like on Selection Sunday. We don't have the pedigree. We don't have the national weight on us where we're going to get the benefit of the doubt. Winning at Houston is how you take it in your own hands and say, no, like you need to respect us because Texas Tech's the only team that's done that in 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, this is absolutely a spot where if you want to get back in, the real national championship contender talk, this is a Saturday to do it. There is one player on Houston that gives me a little bit of Mark Vital, and he's bigger than Mark Vital somehow. JoJo Tugler, he's got mutton chops in the year 2025. And anyone crazy enough to do that has to put a little bit of fear in you, or you're a crazy human being.
Then call me crazy.
Okay, all right.
Maybe the guy just needs a haircut. Maybe he just needs a little shape up, and those things are gone. I don't think that determines whether you're gonna win the rebound battle. Like I'm just not very afraid of this team. And look, I could be wrong. They could come out, excuse me, and do everything you talked about. But I just think we have a bit more size this year, and we beat them last year without that much size. Like they're returning a lot of the same guys. I'm not really that afraid of like the rebound problem. I just don't feel like it's going to be as hard as we think. Like I think we're a bit more, as fans, we're a bit more afraid of the name than I think the actual opponent.
Well, here's the thing, like Big 12 championship last year, we beat Houston by 28 points. And that is probably the best game we played last year.
Mind you, the Big 12 championship was essentially a home game for us though. So let's give that some grace. Like that's why I wasn't. I don't want people to think I forgot about that. I wasn't bringing that up because it was a neutral site, and the neutral site played in our favor because it's down the street.
But you don't win.
Houston is a different story. I'm not denying that.
It's not 28 points different though, is what I'm saying. Like I agree that crowd was probably 90% Cardinal and Gold, but that's not why we won by 28 points. We played out of our minds and just dominated the whole game.
Yeah. No, look, I'm excited to see what's going to happen. I really am. Yeah. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be a great Saturday. We got a lot of good games out there. I know Duke plays Illinois, but Illinois, here's the thing about that one. Illinois right now has Noro-virus, like the whole team, to the point where they didn't even want to shake hands with Wisconsin tonight. So that's
Cooper Flagg getting the flu in crunch time.
I don't know I don't know if it's going to be more of an Illinois problem than a Duke, because I think Duke had a bit of a sickness bug, but I think they they kind of got rid of it because Mason Gillis was out for a bit, and then also I think a few other guys got sick too. But I think Cooper was sick already, so hopefully it was just a head cold or something. But norovirus ain't no joke, man. Wash your hands, and don't think you can get away with it with just hand sanitizer, people. You have to use soap and water. That's the only way you're going to get rid of the Noro, okay?
A little PSA.
No, yeah, dude, I had Noro junior year of college before it was cool, before it was trendy, before it was the next big fad, and I thought I was going to die. I'm not going to lie. There was fluids coming out, and I didn't know what to do with myself. It was terrible. I wouldn't recommend it at all, but wash your hands. That's my only PSA to you guys.
Nigel, a little kind of our last bit on college ball. One of the things that I'm really looking forward to, something crazy would have to happen for Iowa State to get back in the Big 12 race. So what I'm really looking forward to is rooting against other teams. Because the only thing better than rooting for teams is preying on a team's downfall.
Time out. No, it isn't. The only teams in front of us right now are Arizona and Houston. You have 2 opportunities to go beat them.
Yeah, but it's not like we're 1 game back.
It doesn't matter.
How? Quite literally, it does.
Dude.
I mean, Houston would have to drop, 3 of their last 6?
Yes, but...
So they have to lose 2 other times? That's not us? I don't think it's happening.
Okay, but at this point, I really don't care about a regular season title, but I think we could still strive. We could still strive for a tournament title again, back to back. Don't hate it. Don't hate it at all. But I don't know. I don't necessarily want to put us in a situation where we can't outplay Arizona the rest of the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can get second, but I think losing 3 games in a row kind of ends any hope for a Big 12 regular season title, no matter who you lose them against.
I was hoping they would have beaten Houston, but they lost by 4, Arizona.
Yeah, that would have been big.
Excuse me.
That would have kept us alive.
Yeah. So thanks, Caleb Love, for nothing.
Yeah, no kidding.
Jesus Christ. That fucking...
Speaking of teams to root against, Arizona's not a bad team to root against. They had such a bad non-conference that I don't think they would get anywhere close to Iowa State in the seeding line. But Texas Tech, good to root against Texas Tech. They just lost to TCU earlier this week. Alabama just lost. Alabama's a good team to root against. Texas A&M just lost. That's a good team to root against. And then Purdue has lost, 2 in a row?
Yes. They lost to Michigan.
Last 3.
And then who they just lose to? They lost to somebody.
Michigan State, right?
Did they?
Or is that what you're thinking? Yeah, they lost to Michigan State.
No,
I don't think
they lost to Michigan in Ann Arbor, I believe. I'm almost certain of it.
I'm going to fact check you on that. I think it was Wisconsin and Michigan State. Come on, ESPN.
Was it? I could have sworn Michigan beat Purdue. Or they're either that or I'm hallucinating. There's no way.
Dude, they lost 3 in a row. They've lost to Michigan, Wisconsin, and Michigan State in back-to-back games. Back-to-back.
Knew I wasn't tripping. Okay. Yeah, no, they're buns. And that's the thing. Like the Big Ten manages to always get those like teen rankings. So then you'll have a 3-game stretch of ranked opponents who are hot, and it's like you can fall at any given moment. And honestly, that's happening to both Purdue, Illinois, and actually that's pretty much it. Purdue and Illinois. They're going through a rough patch right now. It's crazy because Illinois at one point was a Final Four pick for me. When they were clicking, I really thought they were going to be able to figure it out. But Florida was my initial last 4 pick for that 1 seed. They've up and secured it. What did I tell you guys? Nigel knows ball.
Sure. I think without a doubt, it's Auburn, Duke, Florida, and Houston are the 4 1 seeds. And the reason to root against teams at this point is so Iowa State secures a 2 seed line. Iowa State would literally have to win out, I think, to be in conversation for a 1 seed. And I mean, I would love that as much as the next guy, but that's asking a lot. And I think some other weird stuff has to happen. Houston probably has to drop a couple, or Florida really has to start dropping off for that to happen.
Let's look at Houston's last stretch outside of us. They got...
It's not a cakewalk.
Hear me out. They got Texas Tech.
Yeah.
At Texas Tech. They That's not going to be easy, especially after playing us. That's a back-to-back. So
that's tough.
And then you got to
play on Monday.
This is on 2/24. I believe so. It's Monday.
You'd hate to see it. You'd hate to see him drop 2 games in 3 days.
I wouldn't.
It'd be a real shame.
This is the same team that lost to Jared McCain in the tournament last year. So let's not count out anything.
Sure.
But also too, you got to go play Cincinnati. Very strong backcourt play. You got to go play an angry KU team. I mean, their backs are against the wall, and we're going to talk about that briefly. But also Baylor too, which is no cakewalk either. And you got to go to Waco to end the season. So I think I'm not saying they lose all 4 after us, but if they lose to us, you have to beat Texas Tech. And then if you don't beat Texas Tech at Lubbock, that gives us some leverage because guess who beat Texas Tech in Lubbock? We did. So I don't necessarily want to say that it's out of reach. There are some weird things that could happen, and I'm hoping they happen because we're going into March and it's time for the badness.
Amen. Let's quickly get to Kansas. They suck. They suck. They're bad. They're bad at basketball. Hunter Dickinson is slow and fat and old and not good.
Yeah, watching him on an isolation play is like watching someone get tortured on live television. It's just brutal.
And Bill Self said after the game, is we need some space from each other.
When he said that, I was like, oh, somebody's messing with somebody's girlfriend. This sounds like a Caleb Love, RJ Davis situation. This sounds very familiar.
Is it the players only meeting type beat? What the hell's going on in Lawrence? They it is crazy.
I think when moments like this occur, it's always because of a girl. And I think hear me out. Student athletes for years have been very sought after when it comes to the ladies. And that was before NIL, before the money, that was in anticipation of, hey, this kid's in the mock draft, might be going to the league. We might want to cuff this one, but now Hunter Dickinson's walking into class with a silver little baby chain on and $10K in his pocket. He can just toss Benjamins at people whenever he wants. It definitely causes some attention, and he's not the only person on that team getting paid. So it goes to show too that's Bill Self, just because you can afford the best transfers in the transfer portal doesn't mean you need all of them. At the end of the day, if Iowa State has been one proof of anything with the transfer portal, it is that while getting and utilizing it to our best extent, we've been able to get the right pieces for the team we want and for the right makeup. Because there's no other leave it to TJ to go find Chatfield from Seattle U. I didn't know Seattle U was a school until he committed to Iowa State. I'm not gonna lie to you. So kudos to him because I would have missed out on that guy. Probably would have looked over Heisey just because he's an in-stater. Kind of looked at as on paper the little brother of the Iowa schools, and but it's also having the confidence in your program and your principles and what those people can bring to your program is what matters. And I think some of the blue bloods within the NIL circle are going to get kind of lost in the sauce and just a little too caring about getting just the highest either recruiting classes and or transfer portal guys. But also too, you have to realize that people are in the transfer portal for a reason, and it's usually because they're the problem or they just aren't finding a good mesh. And it's you have to ask yourself that hard question of why are you not finding a good mesh, especially someone like AJ Stour who since high school has transferred every single year. Bro was in the transfer portal in high school. He was going to prep school. Dude, I hope Bill does some hard self-comprehension on himself this offseason and say, well, that was the worst option that I could have made this offseason for sure. We're never going to go down that road again. But also too, guys like Dickinson, you're leaving a good situation where you're the guy in Michigan to come to Kansas. It's not because you want to win, because you're not doing that now. You're clearly doing it for a bag. So people's intentions are not always, you're not going to have a KJ Adams at every school, and Bill Self doesn't have a KJ Adams, obviously outside of KJ Adams throughout the rest of that roster. It just seems like there's real chemistry issues for sure. But You hate to see it, but we don't.
Yeah. It feels, it's a real shame that Kansas just isn't having success. You always root for that little guy to find just a golden nugget in the river. And it's a real shame the Kansas Jayhawks are going to lose 9 games in conference play for the first time in their franchise history.
Hey, man. Womp womp. Hey, how about you go to the SEC? I heard it's pretty easy down there.
Yeah, it means more. Nigel, I just want to tee off on this. We're already going a little bit long. The NBA All-Star Game, and this is someone who has maybe watched 3 full NBA games. I'm locked in on college basketball.
Since we're on Big 12 and we're going to go into we should go talk about the weekend. Not the Rising Stars Challenge, but I do want to acknowledge Texas Tech alum and 3-time dunk contest champion Mac McClung. My goodness. Have mercy. Dude.
He can dunk.
He can dunk. He can funk. It was awesome. It was awesome. To pull out the Kia 2025 K5 first dunk. I don't know. Was it the first or second attempt that he got that down?
I think second, but still.
Okay. But like,
I think Blake Griffin, it took him like 3 tries.
Yeah,
so
let's not disacknowledge this. When Blake Griffin did it, Baron Davis was just outside of the sunroof. It was cute. He jumped over the hood. Who cares? Like, and it was just like a simple like yam. It was a one-handed yam. Like it wasn't a crazy dunk. It was just like, oh my God, that is so swag. It's 2011. This is the greatest thing we've ever seen to this moment. But Mac McClung was like, I'm gonna get freaky with it, and I'm gonna throw this mug. I almost want to say he threw it under. Did he throw it under his legs and then yam it?
Yeah.
That, man, A+ for creativity. And in a contest where we thought we had seen it all, like he was like, I'm just going to take it to a whole nother level. And then also, too, the ladder, the take one behind your back and then grab the other one, filthy. And then the rim tap, filthy. The kid was unreal. And I know Texas Tech fans, we don't always get along, but I do want to tip my cap off to you guys because I'd be pretty damn proud to be able to represent that kid.
Also, it's just very funny to me that he has made more money in the dunk contests than actual basketball contracts.
Hey, man, get your chicken. Here's the thing, though. He plays for the G League Orlando Magic team. So you're not going to play on that team, given that you got to play behind Jalen Suggs, Anthony Black, and Cole Anthony. Like, when are you seeing the floor?
Sure.
It's just not going to happen.
Love Mac McClung. Not sure if he's seeing a lot of time on any NBA backcourt. Great dunker, exceptional dunker. And that is he's like 99 overall in driving dunk, and then like about sub 82 overall in everything else.
He is the Rex Chapman of Steve Nash's, if that makes sense.
I think I'm following.
Thank you.
Vince Carter of John Stockton's.
No. Rex Chapman. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, go do your homework, please.
I know him mostly from Twitter.
Yeah.
I know he's a white guy that can dunk.
And he had 40 on Michael Jordan, so just saying. Anywho, but yes, you did want to talk about the actual game, so let's get into that too.
Yeah, let's speak about your GOAT LeBron showing up at an All-Star game for a couple of photo ops just to say I'm gonna sit this one out. I the 25th guy that didn't make the All-Star game. Tough for you. I'm just gonna show up and get some pictures taken of me and sit my ass down on the bench.
It's like going to a party for the last 20 years. Sorry, God forbid somebody gets tired. The real question is, where was Anthony Edwards and Giannis? Didn't they sit this one out too?
Luka Doncic, didn't see him there. Glad LeBron is leading the team and the Lakers already. Luka's taking notes of load managing, just like your GOAT.
Hurt. Also, Trae Young and Kyrie got brought on because I think AD was hurt too. So
Trae Young and Kyrie Irving might have been the only, and Steph Curry. Those 3 guys should be in every All-Star game. They are built for the All-Star game. All 3 of those guys can do things with a basketball that nobody else in the world can do. Ball handling, passing, it's off the hook.
Get rid of Jokic, because
here's the thing.
He's been very vocal about his hatred for the game, but he was he seemed like he was having some fun this year, but usually that's a player I'm just not willing to watch or get excited to watch in an All-Star game.
He said himself he's not a good All-Star game player, and he's right.
We can tell. Tell.
It's obvious. Here, just very quick synopsis of the All-Star game. 20 minutes of basketball with about 3 commercial breaks, a 40-minute intermission of the TNT show, which I do love, but it needs to be a pregame, a halftime, a postgame. That is what they're good at. They're not good at working a live crowd on live television. That's not what they are. They're a studio show.
Yeah, there's too much dead air live.
Yeah, and we got Kevin Hart.
Bro,
I'm so sick of him.
He was saying some crazy stuff on live TV.
Giving him a live mic is a bad idea. He was off a couple drinks.
Dude.
Let's turn his mic on mute. And
Shaq said he had on a training bra because he had a white tank top on under his leather jacket. They were just going in on each other. It was crazy.
Mr. Beast, Nigel. I'm a fairly young individual. I'm 26. I don't know shit about Mr. Beast, and I have to be one of the younger demographics that the NBA is trying to tap into. I don't give a shit about Mr. Beast. I certainly don't like him yelling as Dame Lillard is in his shooting motion, trying to hit a 40-footer. Some kid from the crowd is like, I want to win this money for my family. So Dame is purposely bricking shots. Dude, it sucked. Then we got another game. We played 20 minutes. Jalen Wells. We got the Rising Stars team out here getting dunked on by Team USA. What are we doing? Give me a game to 200 points with the 10 best players in the world. I don't want any of this weird gimmicky BS. It was so dumb. There was multiple times where they would cut to the players and they would just can we play basketball? They'd be like, yeah, we're ready to play. We're ready to go. And it was awkward. It was way too long.
How many people are usually on each team? Is it 15 for All-Star?
It's 12 on each team, so 24 total.
Do you think they should minimize it to 10? Do you think that would make people a bit more competitive to make spots as opposed to...
No. And this is what we were talking about earlier. The players don't take it seriously because I don't know. It's like a chicken before the egg. The fans don't take it seriously. Whatever show that was so unserious. How would you ask anyone to be like, go give it your all after Mr. Beast just talked bullshit for 15 minutes? No.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
I think more so it's a commissioner issue. I think it's time to have an uncomfortable conversation about Mr. Silver. I think he's way too tapped into what kids, and when I say kids, I mean kids, right, middle school. It's preteens are tapped into in the content they like to watch. When most people are who aren't watching the NBA every day, i.e. us, because we're more tapped into the college basketball scene. That is a time to where we do want to tap back into NBA and just be around the NBA and see our favorite players do what they do. And when it's just being made for more so of a cash grab, it just seems a lot more disingenuous now. And you can even see it, man, in the accessibility of NBA games, man. It's impossible to watch now. Even if you have League Pass, you don't even have all the access to every single game because so many teams have their own channel, like Texas Longhorns, which if you're doing anything like the Texas Longhorns, I suggest you cut it out because you're not that guy. You're not that guy, pal. Okay? But I just think right now, I think we have a commissioner that is a little too strung up on ratings and just gimmicks to essentially bring in more viewers. That's always the excuse. And then all it does is, turn viewers away. So I think it's someone who keeps trying to bring new ideas to the table and they all suck. And people above that person need to have a tough conversation with them. Cause who's the commissioner's boss in a league? Is he the boss? Is that it?
I mean, God? There's probably the owners obviously have a say in what's going on, the owners of teams, but I mean,
he's music to the owners' ears. They're like, oh my God, you're going to get us all more money? Yes, please do that. Please do that. And if not, people will spend more money to come to the games. People aren't doing either. In this economy, are you crazy? No. Yeah. Come on. The NBA has a lot of issues right now. I don't know where to start because it's that complex of an issue, but something's got to change. That's for sure.
It's real bad. Nigel, did we get everything on the rundown?
I think so. I mean, we mentioned UConn, but
yeah,
you guys are sorry.
Scrubs.
Bunch of suckers, man. Dan Hurley, best coach in the country, best coach in the world. Really? Well, then why are you on the bubble? I didn't know you were SpongeBob. You blowing bubbles with Patrick? Huh? You hanging out with Bubble Boy? That's Dan Hurley's new best friend, Bubble Boy. Someone pull up a picture of Bubble Boy for me. I know everyone knows what I'm talking about. What a loser. What a loser. Tapping his finger to Creighton fans. Man, that guy can eat it. He sucks.
Turned around and got slapped by the 1-11 Seton Hall Pirates in Big East play.
In a high school gym. I mean,
scrub.
It's time to do some self-work, Danny. Time to hit the therapy room because you definitely need it.
Went from the Final Four to the first four. I hope he has his reservations booked in Dayton, Ohio for the second week of March. That loser.
If they make the first four, that'll be cinema. Because watch them pull like a 2021 Jaime Jaquez UCLA type of run.
Didn't Syracuse,
like the 11 seed? And
didn't Syracuse do that?
Yeah, they made the Final Four though, I believe.
Yeah,
I think because that was the Malachi Richardson year. But the one I remember of recent was Jaime Jaquez,
Tiger Campbell, Johnny Juzang.
Johnny Juzang. Oh my God,
that team was fun.
It took a heroic Gonzaga team to put those people to bed because they were a problem. But that's pretty much all I wanted to go over. Also, guys, you can talk about it in the comments. Dylan doesn't think New Balance is back. The brand is back. I have 5 shoes that I can put on at a given time, all heat. Just let us know what you think about New Balance because I'm a big fan of the recent putouts. Dylan is not. He still thinks you should be wearing KD6s out in public and not playing basketball in them. So that's definitely a choice, but it's not a choice I would make. That's all.
Nigel, you know I love all of our listeners. I would guess that most of our listeners have New Balances and they're their mowing shoes. And that's what they should be. They should be stained green with grass and worn from the months of May to September, and then you put them away.
You can have a pair of mowing New Balance shoes, but there's just some New Balance shoes that you can rock with sweats. You can rock with jeans. You can rock with khakis. You can rock at pull it up to play 21. Like it's become a very versatile shoe. It's all about how you rock it. That's what fashion is at the end of the day.
And that's why I wear Jordans.
Yeah,
that's all I got.
You're also wearing Devin Booker's shoes out to live shots. So wicked decision.
Hold up. Right here. The snake skin?
Dude. Heat,
trash.
Bro. Heat.
Trash.
Heat. You can wear this with anything.
This is terrible radio. They can't see our shoes. You can see Iowa State play Houston. College game day. Huge game. Lock in. If we win that, man, gonna be a real reckless let him cook.
Yeah,
this time next week.
Guaranteed lock. Nigel's taking his shirt off. That's all. I'm just gonna put it out there on the line right now.
Let him cook. See you guys.
Peace.